Hi, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of Too Opinionated, where I'm just thrilled today. This is a big one for me. I'm joined by actor Marc Singer. Marc, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hey, I appreciate the invitation. It's good to spend some time with you and with the people that you connect with.
Thank you so much. We were part of what we do with this show is we cover conventions as press, and we were coming to see you this past May, and the convention got canceled. I was wanting to say Cincinnati, but I think it was Lexington that we were coming to.
It was Lexington. Yeah.
Lexington, yeah. We were so excited to come, and that everything got canceled. So this is great that we get to talk.
I know we have to do the best we can to hold it down, don't we?
That's right. We'll get back out there at some point.
That's right.
I see you've got we were talking before we came on air that you've been practicing the piano, and I see you got your guitar there. I know that you come from a very musical family, so I was going to ask you anyway if you played any instruments.
I do. I mean, if you call it music, but I play the piano and also the guitar, and I compose my own songs and stuff like that. I guess all of us do play the guitar.
Yeah.
So that's one way of keeping busy. Other than that, I write. So at least I have to do around the house.
You have to do something. Well, your mother was a pianist, right?
My mother was a pianist. My father was a symphony conductor.
Yeah.
My uncle was a concertizing pianist, and my sister Lori is also a virtuoso on the cello, and my brother's a violinist. And so, I come from a long family.
I found that a lot is when you have an artistic family, they're usually good at all of the arts, not just, or at least a few of the arts. So it makes sense that you and Lori would end up in acting, and you're musical. Do you paint? Do you have any artistic talent that way?
I do. I don't know if I have any talent, but I do it. I hang it where people, when they used to come over, I hang it where people are forced to look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, they're stuck with it. I've always appreciaed artistic talent because I don't have any of it. I can't do any of it.
I doubt that you're very creative. I know.
No. Now, Brett, thankfully, is. He's a really talented writer, and he's doing a lot of good things. But that's just not. That hadn't been me. I got just real quick. I got a chance to do some voice acting with Ed Asner. And
right,
and he was great. I was not, but I hung in there with him. But he's terrific. I've got a lot of respect for what you and your fellow actors do. That's not an easy profession.
He's one of my heroes. He's always been just so kind to me and good to me.
Yeah,
I was an actor coming into town, and he was one of the very first people that extended himself. Here was a man with a great reputation and already a body of work behind him that was internationally appreciated. And I can't say that he took me under his wing, but I know that whenever I was in his presence, he was always the first person to come across the room and welcome me. And
that's great.
I always
yeah. Old Lou Grant. Yeah, he's terrific, and still really just sharp, and just really great at his craft. It's pretty amazing watching him work. It's pretty good. So I think I was trying to think. I think the first thing that I ever saw you act in was back. They used to have a Planet of the Apes TV show.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and you were like I don't remember the name of the character, but you were like a gladiator on that show.
That's the first television show that I did here in Los Angeles. I did a guest star shot on Hawaii Five-0 back in the day when Jack Lord was the star of Hawaii Five-0. And then after that, I did an out-of-town gig on a show called Nakia, which Robert Forster starred in. And then after that, the first thing I did in town was a Planet of the Apes, and I played the son of Bill Smith. Bill Smith is a man who sort of made his bones in town back in the days of the Western. He was on I think it was the Texas Rangers, I think what he was on. But he's a big man, big and massive, and spoke 5 languages, strangely enough, and taught Russian, CLA. But he was a big guy, and he was a rounder. In those days, a lot of actors were known by their dukes and whether they were willing to use them, and he was not shy. And I was supposed to get into a fight with him on that show, and we, I hadn't done any stunts on camera before. I'd been on stage a lot, but I said, "Look, I'm supposed to hit him in the stomach," and I said, "I don't know how to do that. I don't know camera work yet, that sort of stuff." Somebody said, "Just make a loop kind of fist this and just go like that and just tap him gently there." And I thought, well, first of all, he's a big guy and powerfully built, and I was told a very short temper. And a fist like this is also a chi fist.
Right.
And I didn't know. So they had action, and I went boom like that. And he walked off into a field out in the desert like this and kind of walked it off. And somebody walked up and said, "Do you know who you just hit?" And then I went white. And then, but he was a very sweet guy. He realized that he was dealing with somebody that didn't know. So I lived to tell the tale. Yeah, he was a good man. Very good man.
Did that work help you later when you got the role in Beastmaster? Did they say, "Well, he's already played the gladiators, so bring him in"?
Oh, a career is one building block on another, and so you learn everything as you go along. I'm surprised when I look at how little I knew about the mechanics of filmmaking. To see what my progress was and has been through the years, I'm surprised to find that I worked all after that moment. But yeah, everything you learn is something that you add to your work on down the line. Sure.
How did you
eventually in the
shape for those roles?
It's interesting, how it is in film. I think you bring with you everything that you're going to eventually unpack in front of the camera. So I've been studying the martial arts for a good time before then, and athletics and athleticism was sort of that was my bag. That's what I brought with me from my childhood in Texas, where I was raised. I was raised on the Gulf of Mexico, and I was an outdoor kid all my life. Kind of a Huckleberry Finn existence back in those days, when most of the United States was still rural. Right. And but eventually, I got into the martial arts up in Seattle and at the Seattle Kung Fu Club under Master John Leong, and I began to develop some skills, and those are the things that I brought to my work that later showed up in the Beastmaster and in V, the television series.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we loved you in V. That was great. That kind of makes sense. You've got kind of that look, I think, somebody that has spent a lot of time doing either martial arts or boxing or something like that.
Yeah, and somebody dumb enough to continue doing it.
Yeah. How did you get into acting? What made you want to become an actor?
What the stuntmen say, by the way, when they get shaken up on the set.
What's that?
They say it would have killed an ordinary man. And then if you're a young guy in the industry, you go, "Well, I can do it too," And then,
that's right. Go, yeah, you don't know any better.
Yeah, you give it a try. And then you do, and you say, "I won't do that again."
Oh, shoot. you've got a fan.
What were you?
I talked to Sam Jones last night, who played Flash Gordon, and I told him I was going to talk with you, and so that's what he wanted to know. He's like, well, ask him how he keeps in shape, because he was impressed with your shape back in.
No, I know I have any people who might be acquainted with my work. I know I have a reputation for that, and I'm always a little self-conscious if we happen to be at a restaurant or eat on the set, because they say, "You eat that?" And I don't know. I guess they expect me to be eating broccoli in one hand and celery in the other, but I eat anything I can get my hands on.
Well, you're a Texas guy.
That's right. That's right. Yeah,
no, I was asking, what made you want to become an actor? How'd you get into that?
I guess it was sort of preordained in a way, because my folks were in the entertainment business.
Right.
They were in classical music. They were in symphonic music, stuff like that. So, but I really didn't have any direction in my life in the sense of what I felt inside myself.
Yeah.
I didn't have any goal. I wasn't an avid student. I was a daydreamer, and as I say, I was largely physical, not mental. And I did go to see a film. My father tricked me into going to see a film by Olivier called Richard III, and it was by Shakespeare. But he tricked me. He said it's about knights. So I went to see Richard III, and the first half of it, I didn't understand anything. But because of the actors and the production and Shakespeare, I understood the second half of the play, and I went home and I memorized the opening soliloquy. And I was in the 5th grade in those days. I could barely read and write. And but in high school, I was selected to play the lead in the class play, and that was it. I walked out on stage, and I realized, okay, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Oh, that's early. That's great. What was the play?
It was The Taming of the Shrew.
Oh, okay.
I played the lead. I played Petruchio. And what I think the important thing, if there's anything important to be said about that, any lesson to be learned, is not personal. It's general, and that is that the arts programs, performing arts programs, any art program in the public schools should be, in my opinion, fully funded.
Agreed.
And always encouraged, because it's the students that don't know that might be academically inclined,
right,
or who've never found a niche that suits their interest, that will benefit from those. And they're often the guys or the girls that don't feel that they fit in,
right,
in the sense that they're the ones that people say, oh well, they're just passing through, and they have an outsider's view of society, and that's what art needs. It needs an outsider's view.
I like that. Yeah, that's a really good point, and completely agree. A lot of times, the arts get underfunded, especially alongside athletics, and it definitely should be at least equal to, I think.
I agree with you, sure.
Yeah, that's really great. I wanted to. There was a few things. Let's talk about V, because when V came out, I was a teenager, and there wasn't a whole lot like that on TV. That was such a great show, and just what was that like when you got that script, right, for that role? What was that kind of like? Because that was kind of a different, sci-fi, different role at that time.
I laugh about my audition for that, because Ken Johnson, who originated he wrote it, produced it, and directed it, the original. He called me in for an audition, and usually you audition with a whole group of executives from the studio and the network gathered together. And in this case, it was Ken Johnson and Brandon Tartikoff, the president of NBC.
Yeah.
And we were in a little closet it was like a janitor's closet. I could barely squeeze in, and Ken Johnson read all my lines for me. he would hold the script and he'd say, well, Mike Donovan. And he'd say, so, well, what do you think the next thing is? And then I'd go, and as I would do this, he'd say, and then he says, and then he'd read my lines. And, oh, yeah, so and so and so and so and so and so. And then he'd read his lines again. Oh, so you think you've got us stymied, do you? And I'd go, and he'd go, and then he says, and he'd read all my lines. And then he shoved me out the door. And looking over his shoulder, he shoved me out the door and said, isn't he great? He said, and shoved me out. That's how I got the role. So he had his eyes.
Oh, that's terrific.
Yeah. Easiest audition anybody in Hollywood ever had.
Oh, that's terrific. And that was such a great cast. That was just a fun show. And it wasn't Helen Hunt was the little girl on that show. Am I remembering that right?
Right.
Yeah.
We had a wonderful cast. We had a great production company. The thing it started out with such an interesting analogy for its basis. You know, the whole thing about fascism inserting itself into a society and drawing the society into its belief.
Yeah.
And the metaphor between that, the World War II experience of fascism worldwide, and here it became more of a kind of an adventure, just an adventure epic.
Right.
And in those days, it just became fun to go to work, just for a completely different reason. Yeah. Because if you wanted to do your own stunts, if you could think it up, you could do it. So you could spin cars around the parking lots and jump off of buildings and do anything you wanted to do. Anything you could, they'd let you do it. Yeah, that was fun.
That's terrific. Yeah, that's terrific. And then they called you and brought you back for the remake.
Yeah, they did for one brief moment. I'm afraid
that was really cool. We were very excited when we got. It was a different role, but it was still cool seeing you back on there.
I appreciate it. It was either too little, too late, or too much at the right time, because that was the end. That was the swan song.
Oh, we were just happy you got on there.
No, I appreciate that, and I received notices from a lot of my fans around the world who saw that. Glad that they made that effort. I have to say I appreciated that too. Yeah. That was a nice thing. I had hoped that it would go on for another season so that I could evolve from that character back into Mike Donovan, and also so that I could in that way influence the storyline.
Yeah,
the way production handled itself. You know.
Yeah, that would have been great. That was such a fun role. It has to be rewarding to be on a couple of different, a show and a movie that are just become these cult type of iconic roles. I mean, that has to be kind of rewarding.
In my own childhood, everything in movies and everything in television was basically focused toward cowboys. Everybody was a cowboy. Every movie was a cowboy movie, and every television show was a cowboy show. And so in those days, every kid fantasized about being those guys on the screen.
Yeah.
And one day I was walking along the streets in Hollywood, and I was Marc Singer, and the next day I was the Beastmaster. It's like being the Lone Ranger. One day you're you, and the next day you're the Lone Ranger, and you'll always be Lone Ranger from then on. So I kind of really enjoyed being the Beastmaster, and I really enjoy it still today. And being Mike Donovan in V. I mean, I'm both of them. Yeah.
I'll have to admit that when you agreed to come on the show, I may have told a few people the Beastmaster's coming on. That's pretty exciting. Well, and so how did that role go? Because I can't. That was such an odd script too, because it's like, well, you're going to be running around in this kind of loincloth type of thing, and you're talking to animals, and it's just like, okay, but it turned into this kind of it was all classic.
Yeah, it was on the crest of the wave at that moment.
Yeah.
There was the kind of uh, sword and sorcery epics were
Right.
at that time just coming into vogue. And I really understood it. I knew what this genre was like. My agent couldn't believe that I was accepting the script, and I said, "Are you kidding? It's going to be great if it's handled correctly."
Yeah.
And I was fortunate that it was handled correctly. Uh, so uh, it, it it ended up being one of the greatest learning experiences in my life. I got to work with all great stuntmen from the Stuntmen's Association. Was the original Stuntmen's Union, if you
Oh,
will,
wow.
Stuntmen's Guild.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I got to work with all those guys, and in fact, many of those guys were in fact the stuntmen that I'd been watching in my childhood on all these westerns,
On the
and
Westerns.
they
Yeah.
taught me, yeah, and they taught me so much. They taught me about horses and about stunts and camera work and camera placement and directing, because these
Yeah.
people had had years and years of experience and were very sophisticated filmmakers each in their own way. And so there was, that whole experience with the Beastmaster was terrific. And I have to say just a quick word about the animal handlers
Yeah.
on that original Beastmaster. They were so amazing. And I have to say, I also feel that they got something from me as well, because they said, you got to stop so intimate with that tiger. Don't touch him so much and don't be around him so much, because one of these days he's going to eat you. And I said, no, you don't understand. He and I really have a simpatico, and we really did. No kidding. But before we ever got filming, when I just imagined that this was going to work right, I said to them, I've never worked with a tiger before. I'm an actor. So is there some thought you can put in mind that I kind of every day approach the tiger with? It weighed 450 pounds. And his head was as big as a washing machine. And so is there some, they said, oh, you want something that you can think of every day? And I said, yeah. And they said, okay, cat, mouse. Even I can remember that.
That's right. Yeah, you don't see too many cats with their, hanging out with their buddies, the mice.
Yeah.
Oh, well, and that movie had a shelf life. It was a while before they made a sequel. And then I know there was a third movie, but then it was a while longer and they made it into a TV show. I mean, it really spanned a couple decades there.
Yeah, it did. And the television show that they made out of it, I was also invited on.
I know.
I went. They filmed it filmed in Australia. I directed one episode, and I was in 6 or 7 or something like that episodes myself. It's an amazing profession, the acting. Go down and suddenly you're in Australia. You've never been there before. Amazing, beautiful country. Great.
Where was it? Was that where the original was filmed?
I was in No, the original was filmed, in fact, right outside of Los Angeles in Simi Valley, in the hills above Simi Valley.
Yeah.
Because in those days, there were homes out in Simi Valley. And then very few. And then as well, it was filmed outside of Las Vegas in a place called the Valley of Fire.
Oh, there. So yeah. All right. Yeah. So I interrupted you. Go ahead.
I forget what I was saying. Are you kidding? I'm lucky to remember what my name is these days.
I got that problem myself.
As I said, we're doing with this without a script. Let me see. I don't have any notes either. So
see, when I get ready for these interviews, and I'm winging it most of the time, but I try to write down I just write down talking points, but then I never look at them, when I get, but you kind of, once you start talking with somebody, you want it to just be a conversation. So you just kind of talk, and I try to not, I think it helps me just write stuff down because then it's fresh in my mind, but I don't really use it.
Yeah. And also conversations have a way of running themselves, you know. So
Yes.
as long as it makes sense to us, I think it'll make sense to anybody who's listening to us.
It's you've done some voice acting. I didn't realize that you had done some of that.
Yeah, I have. I really enjoy voice acting. It's a fun experience. I did Duck Dodgers and
Yeah.
Yeah, and Batman and
Yeah, you were the man
things
bat.
like that. That's right. I was an MBAT, and I love the idea of everybody sitting around the old radio days. We've all got headsets, and we've all got microphones, and you just add into your microphone. Everybody's around. It's a fun experience. Yeah.
Yeah. You were on did an episode of Johnny Quest too. That was the one I used to watch when I was.
That's right. Yeah. I forget some of these. I'm getting to that age, or I've done so much, and I'm not sure which it is. I'm afraid it's the former, not the latter.
You were actually on I said that Planet of the Apes was the first one I saw you on. It may not have been, because I really liked this show. It wasn't on for too long, but it was a cop show called The Rookies, and you made an appearance on there. So I that may have been the first time I'd seen you.
It might very well have been, because, you know, they reran things, and so you might have seen them out of
sequence. Well, that's what it was. I wasn't watching them live. I was, you know, I was watching them in reruns, probably early on when cable came out. You know, a lot of that stuff from 60s, early 70s, you know, through the mid 70s, they were showing on cable as reruns.
The Rookies was starred four people that became close friends of mine. Sam Melvin, George Stanford Brown, and Kate Jackson, and Michael Ontkeen. And in fact, I worked with Jerry O'Loughlin, who played the lieutenant. I worked with him in a television movie called Something for Joey, which was about a Heisman Trophy winner named John Capoletti, and who played for the Rams for a while.
I've seen that movie. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
That's, well, you know, back in the 80s, it was all there was only a couple of channels, so anything that came on TV, you know, we were watching back then, because
that's right.
Competition.
I try to explain that sort of that situation, and I think one of the ways that for anybody who has the gumption to sit through it is to watch some of the old series and try to imagine that people could possibly be interested in the scripts. You know, serious. Some are like, really? That's the story. That's the story. I can't. So stories now on television are so much more sophisticated, and the acting is so much more demanding, and the acting itself, I think, is so much more refined. I'm constantly amazed and appreciative of the work that I see in my colleagues. I really am.
Yeah. That's great. Are you still involved with? Do you still do theater?
Oh yeah, I just last year, as a matter of fact, well, in the last couple of years, I played Macbeth in a production of that play in Tallahassee's Southern Shakespeare Festival.
Yeah,
Tallahassee, Florida. It was a 1,500 seat amphitheater. It was a wonderful production, and just a terrific company to work with and to work for.
Yeah.
And the year prior to that, I not only directed but played Oberon in A Midsummer Night's Dream at the Group Repertory Theater here in Los Angeles. So
wow.
I've been keeping up myself. Yeah, well, Shakespeare was my beginning. I'm always ready to do some Shakespeare for sure.
Yeah, that's all. Well, you've got a very recognizable voice. I think I can see you doing Shakespeare.
Okay, I was hung up on the recognizable part. I was thinking about what I was like. I got out of bed, looked at myself, and said, "Who is that?"
Oh no! When I hear you talk or act in something, I know. I'm like, I know who that is. That's
okay,
yeah,
good.
and I think most people, especially from my generation, are like that. You know, your voice is very, very recognizable.
I appreciate it. You know, there's every actor really is a well-rounded athlete, including how to produce a sound. And what we really do in front of the camera is do our best, or on a stage, is our best to describe it, to hide all of the techniques that we use in order to do the work. That's kind of part of it, you know.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a magician, you know. Don't look at what this hand is doing while this hand is keeping your attention.
I even remember you on. You did a stint on Dallas, and
right.
Yeah, I brought that up. I was talking with Charlene Tilton, who played Lucy, and I was telling her, I was like, I'm getting ready to talk to Marc Singer, and what she said, I said, I'm getting ready to talk with Marc Singer, who was on Dallas, and she said, the Beastmaster. That's what I was like.
Yeah. Dallas was the scariest show I was ever on, because by the time I got on Dallas, they'd been running for so many years.
Yeah.
And I had no idea who had been married to who, or who was what girlfriend, or who first. And so every day when I came to say my lines, it was like reading Egyptian hieroglyphs. It was just, okay, here we go.
That's right. Well, it was a soap opera, a long running one. I mean, it was in the evening, but it was an evening soap. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty good. You were also in a movie with Bryan Cranston. I just remember that he called it was sci-fi Dead Space.
Right.
I always enjoyed that one.
I feel, well, listen, Cranston's been in everything. So his IMDb list should be, you know, like one of those jokes where the guy says, I have a few words to say, and then throws a long scroll out into the audience, you know. But I feel as though I've worked with him a couple of times. He's a real sweet guy, and a heck of an amazing actor.
Yeah, really.
Along with all the other stuff that I've seen him do, I just loved his Lyndon Johnson. You know.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. There's the biography of Lyndon Johnson, written by Robert Caro. It's several thousand pages. But I'm fascinated by Lyndon Johnson. I'm an old Texas kid myself.
Yeah.
And he was our senator there before he was president. And so to me, you know, you're talking about Mr. Cranston, there we have it. There's a connection.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. That's really interesting. Are you a history buff, or are you just interested in particular parts of history?
You know, I would say more than I'm interested in how things are connected, in the sense of where they came from. You know, so that I don't think of myself as going to the library so I can look up the biography of Tarquinius Superbus or something like this. But I am sometimes interested in how we got where we are, and some of the things that connect us to it. You know.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you're. Go ahead.
You go.
I was just going to ask you.
I was just going to say if you.
That's the beauty of Zoom. There's a slight delay. Now you go first.
I'm done. I've said my piece. I don't know what you're saying. Go ahead.
Well, so I was going to ask you. You said you were doing some writing. Is that just music, or are you writing? You know, writing. Like, are you writing a book, a script? What are you working on?
I just completed in this last year. I wrote my first full-length play. I've always wanted to write a play for. Yep. It's called Gary's Place, and it's a romantic, I would say a romantic comedy, although it's a poignant piece, and it's about, if I say what it's about, it sounds like a downer. It actually, it's quite a gripping and fun and romantic piece.
Yeah.
And it's about Alzheimer's, about a guy who is being persuaded by his friends that now is the time to think about moving into assisted living. And it's funny, and it's romantic, and it's nostalgic, and it's poignant, and it's a fun play.
I would watch that. Have you got that set up, or is it going to be?
It was in rehearsal. It was in rehearsal at the Group Repertory Theater here in North Hollywood, and COVID came, and that was the end of everything. And
we got to get that back up.
It's a wonderful, it's a good play. It really is a good play. And I've written plays and co-written screenplays. And I used to write for Young and the Restless, as a matter of fact,
really?
For a brief moment. Yeah, that's a little like shoveling coal in an old steamship. You just go like this all day long. You just shovel
it never
words,
stops,
and it never stops, and the furnace just burns them up, and you just shovel more words in. And I threw up my hand and said, "That's it for me. I got to go up on deck for some air." So, but I did have that experience, and I have to say, writing, just as they say, writing for a taskmaster is terrific training, because when you're writing for a daytime drama, as they call it, you are limited to 250 words, or 500, or 750, or 1,000. Exactly.
Wow.
And that's what you have to fulfill. And they will come down on you quite severely if you should have somebody say please, never says please.
That had to be hard.
It was very, very exacting, but I have to tell you, it made me 100 times the writer that I was before I got involved in that. That series, by the way, prides itself on the way that it structures its script, and it was a real kind of a blessing out of the blue to find somebody. I was just walking down the street, and one of my neighbors said, "Do you do any writing?" I said, "Yeah, I do some writing." He said, "Do you want to work for us?" And
wow.
That's how I got the, yeah.
I'm going to tell my son that, because that's what he thinks is going to happen to him. I think he's just going to be walking down the street and somebody will be like, "Come on."
It is, it's like anything else. It's so exacting. And you have to just stay at it and stay at it and stay at it. I'll tell you the things that and there's a different voice for every type of thing that you write. I've written a pamphlet. It's about 100 pages long. It's called How to Act Shakespeare. And it's a way of getting into that. Now that's one voice, if you will, talking that way. But then I also write cowboy poetry. I write O. Henry-esque stories in cowboy poetry form. And that's a completely other voice in another universe.
Love that.
And I'll send you some. You when we get through with this. Well, I already have your email address.
Yeah, you got my email. Yeah, please do. I would love that. I'm a big Western cowboy fan. Okay,
me too. I was very fortunate in prepping for and working on the Beastmaster to become friends with a gentleman named Chuck Bale. I don't think he'll be insulted if I call him a gentleman. And he's he used to be a horse trader when he was young, and he schooled me in horses and riding. And I used to work on his ranch for 2 or 3 years in a row there before he moved off to Texas, and now we just communicate.
Well, I think that qualifies you. You're an actual cowboy.
It qualifies me to hang around the edges of them anyway. Yeah. I do. If I'm given a hint, I know which end of the horse to climb up on.
Hey, we've got we've got a local theater. We're in just we're outside the capital, West Virginia, Charleston, and it's just a little town. But they've got this really great little theater, and my wife's on the board, and they do some really great stuff. Ed Asner came. That's how we met him. He came through and did his play where he was playing God. So if you ever need a place for your play, we're here for you. We're ready.
I appreciate.
Bring it to West Virginia.
I appreciate. I may take you up on that. I may
Yeah.
take you up on that. I not only wrote the play, but I also, although it wasn't intended this way, I also was cast as the lead in the play. So I mean, you may have opened a can of worms that you may not be able to close again.
Bring it on out. You can be the lead, and we've got I'm not one of them, but we've got a great little local group of actors that could fill it out. They'd be thrilled. They'd be thrilled. They did a great job with Mr. Asner, so they'd be thrilled. Yeah. So anytime.
Well, this is the extraordinary thing. This is the extraordinary thing about the arts. And I'm sorry I didn't get a chance yet to say hi to your son, but this is the extraordinary thing about the arts, is that it's all about connectivity, and that here we are meeting for the first time, and yet we have so much in common because we're creative. We're in the creative universe, you know? Wow. And I think everybody in the world should be, and I think everybody in the world is. Nice things about this technology is it can all connect.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's one of the good things I think about technology, and there's a few bad, but one of them is it definitely connects everybody, and you can reconnect with old friends and family and you know, people that you idolized growing up. I mean, it's a terrific venue, I think, for that.
It's got, as you say, it's got some good and some bad. And the bad part was the language that I was using as I was trying to connect to Zoom today, but I can mention that.
Hey, you got there. I was like, I don't know. That's what I told my wife. I was like, I might have to help him. I was like, which would be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I have to help you do it.
That's right.
But you did
it. I've turned into that actor that needs somebody to hold my hand.
Well, you know, the younger you are, the better you are with technology. You know, I'm not very good with it either, but now Brett, he's great at it, and his younger, you know, cousins better than he is. You know, it's just the younger, I think, they grew up with it.
It's in my childhood, it was technology represented the automobile. You know, that's where you used to see the little old man behind the wheel with a great big wheel, barely see his head above the dashboard, right?
Yep.
You don't see that anymore. You don't see that anymore. Now it's the Papa House punching the button on the computer and swearing.
Well, I guarantee my parents do it. You know, I'm who they call when they have trouble. They're trying to use
that's
Facebook
right.
and all
call
that
my
stuff.
daughter.
Yeah, they call me, and I usually end up calling, you know, one of the grandkids. I usually can't fix it unless I can just go and unplug it and plug it back in. That's usually not getting fixed. Well, Mark, hey, thank you so much. This has been wonderful. I really appreciate you.
Hey, it's been a pleasure.
It's
been an easy conversation. You're a wonderful host, very generous, and
thank you.
I appreciate the invitation.
Thank you so much. I hope that you know, we get to come out and see you at one of these conventions, hopefully next year or you know, hopefully next year, but they start back up and you get to hit that circuit again. We'll get to come and meet you in person.
Same thing I say to you, I send to everybody that will be looking at this: stay safe, you know, and protect yourself and protect neighbors, and we'll all get together by and by.
Yeah, that's right. I love that. That's you said it much better than I did. That's the writer in you, or the cowboy. I don't know.
Yeah, either one. I'd be proud to be even considered in the same as either one of those. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, very good. Well, okay. Oh, Mark, before you go, where can two things? Do you have anything upcoming that we can look for you in? And where can people find you if they, you know, are looking for you?
I'm sorry to say that right now they can't find me any place. I do live a hermit's existence, and I'm ashamed of that.
Well, I tracked you down.
Okay. Oh, well, good. Well, then you're better equipped to tell them than I am. You know, somebody asked me my phone number the other day. I couldn't think of it. I don't ever call myself. I don't know what. So, So what was the other question? I forget already.
Well, just do you have anything coming out or upcoming that we can look for?
Oh yeah. There's a film I agreed as a favor to participate in a cameo in a film called The Undertaker's Wife. And I haven't seen it edited yet, but I did that. I was glad I participated in it.
Yeah.
And, The Undertaker's Wife.
Undertaker's Wife. All right, we'll keep an eye out for that. Yeah, very good.
Right.
That's good, because right now it's tough to really have anything coming out. Most of the people we're talking to are like, yeah, we're kind of just waiting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's the state of mind of and state of reality of most of us.
Yeah.
I'm looking to go back down to Southern Shakespeare Festival one of these days. We'll see if that gets back on its feet, and then maybe I'll see you in West Virginia.
We're serious. Yeah, absolutely. Would love to have you out here. And if not, when that gets back up in LA, we're out in LA quite a bit. Please let us know. We'll plan our trip around that.
So I'll see you out here in LA.
Yeah, awesome. Well, all right. Thank you so much, Mark. And please come back at some point. I know Brett definitely would love to talk with you. So he's just, he's 20. So he's just now discovering all that stuff from the 80s and 90s. So I'm getting to share that with him, and he loves it. So, yeah.
That of all the things that makes me happiest about any of that stuff from the 80s is when I hear that somebody's enjoying that with their family, or they had enjoyed it when they were younger with their family. That's what it's all about. That's the best thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that so much. And not just the 80s. I'm showing him stuff that, from the 50s and 60s, 70s, stuff I enjoyed when I was younger, and just it's been great.
I was very fortunate when I got into town. I know we're going to wrap this up, but I was very fortunate when I got into town that the great stars from the past were still working. I worked with Burt Lancaster, and with Henry Fonda and Olivia de Havilland, and Maria Sullivan, and just every Jack Warden, everybody. We all worked together, and I learned a great deal of that. I think there's a lot of, again, speaking about connectivity, there's a lot that families can share in the sense of development of art and culture, in seeing these things and having it a personal context.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you got to do any Westerns?
Well, wait a minute. That was a pretty good sentence.
That was a great sentence. I know I moved too fast. That was excellent. That was excellent. I would have totally stumbled over that.
It almost sounded like I knew what I was doing.
You totally did. It was good. I should have just said, hey, we can't get any better than that. We'll just wrap it there. But then it came in my head. I was like, hey, we've been talking about Westerns. Have you ever got to do a Western?
The closest I got to doing a Western, I have, again, around the fringes of it. I did, I was on Roots, The Next Generation.
I knew that. Yeah.
That's close to being a Western. I drove a buggy in that. And then I also was in something called, they changed the title of these things a lot. So I think it was called Savant.
Savant.
And then it was called Kick Fighter or Kickboxer or something like that. And that was that was set in a Western setting. But no, I've never had the opportunity to do a Western. I keep wondering, what's going on out there. Here I am.
Yeah. So, here you are. You need to write one yourself.
Yeah, yes, so. And well, I send you one of my cowboy poetry things.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so excited about that. That's something I'll be holding over all my nerdy friends from my youth, because we're still close. I'll be bringing that up.
All right. I'm proud to be called a nerd.
Hey, when I was younger, that wasn't necessarily a good thing if you were kind of nerdy, but now everybody's nerdy. It's not a negative now.
Words are like old cars. They go in and out of fashion.
See, you've got all kinds of good lines. Oh, that's great. All right, Mark. Thank you so much. Great talking with you too. Stay safe.
You push the button. I don't know how. I'll just respond when something happens on my screen.
All right. Hold on. I'll hit the button. Wow. The Beastmaster. Oh my gosh. I held it together about as good as I could hold it together. I mean, Marc Singer is somebody that's a bucket list conversation for me. That's somebody I have wanted to meet most of my life. I love his acting. I just and he's got and I mentioned in there he's got such a distinctive voice. Absolutely, wow. I don't even know what to say. I'm definitely not as articulate as he was, and he was very patient with me because obviously I was a little excited, and I talked over him a few times, which isn't, you know, I try to be pretty good about that, but he was really good and patient and didn't get upset. So I really appreciated that. And who knows, maybe he'll come to West Virginia. Wouldn't that be just wow? It's one of the great things about this podcast is that, you know, Brett and I, we're fans. You know, when we talk to somebody, we're doing it because we're fans, and we you know, we're really interested in the conversation. And I hope that's part of the reason that all of you listen. You know, we try not to just have a dry interview. We really try to have a conversation. So I hope you enjoy that. Please check us out on Facebook under MeisterCon. Check out our new website, meistercon.com. If you are inclined to donate to the show to help us out a little bit, we're building a new podcasting studio, could definitely use the help. Patreon.com/MeisterCon. You know, we won't give it, you don't have to give it to us for nothing. You know, you'll get some special content, some early access. So hopefully if you're so inclined, you'll do that. Please also, you know, we're producing and so proud of it. Let's call it an audio drama, but it's a podcast about people's involvement and how they dealt with this COVID crisis that we've been in. It's very heartwarming. It's called The Last Saturday Night. It's terrific, and it has an amazing cast. You know, I got to do some work with Ed Asner. Sherilyn Fenn is involved. You know, Eric Roberts. You know, we've got Jennifer Elise Cox, Vincent Ward. Just, it's an amazing cast. So please, when you're done with this, check that out. The Last Saturday Night. It's going to be 10 or 11 episodes. You know, so there should be several of them up right now. So please, Charlene Tilton is also in it. Please check that out. It's written by Jennifer Nash. So proud of that. Thanks again to Marc Singer. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again real soon. Bye, everybody.